Hey, what's up, stock compounders? Brad here. So today I want to talk about Mohnish Pabrai's top 10 investing sins. Okay, this is from a lecture he did called The 10 Commandments of Investment Management. And, I'm a sinner as well. I commit investment sins. And the reason I'm doing this video is to remind myself of what these sins are so I don't commit them. Okay. So let's go through the list. The 10 biggest investment sins. The first one, thou shalt not skim off the top. This really applies to investment managers, okay? And it relates to the fixed fees that investment managers charge. 2 and 20, for example, is a very common fee structure where it's 2% fixed, regardless of what happens to the fund. If it goes up, it goes down. Doesn't matter. It's a fixed 2% of assets. And then, of course, the 20 is a performance-based fee. When Mohnish Pabrai and Guy Spier had lunch with Warren Buffett, Warren Buffett, it sounds like, actually talked Guy Spier into removing the fixed fees from his fund. It's also called fees for breathing. Okay, investment managers shouldn't really make fees for breathing. They should make fees, they should make money when they do a good job for their clients. And that's how Pabrai has his fund structured. It's a 0-6-25 fee structure where there's no fixed fees. There's a 6% performance hurdle, and then anything over 6%, Pabrai takes a 25% cut of that. And it really just aligns the incentives between the management team and the investors that those managers are managing money for. So it's really important to have that alignment in incentives. Commandment 2, thou shalt not have an investing team. Okay, this is hugely important. So, when Pabrai describes this piece, he basically says, if you have a team of investors, the different investors, they're going to have different circles of competence, okay? So, Pabrai is the one who's leading the fund. He's going to have to say no all the time to these people who are bringing him ideas, because most of them aren't going to be in his circle of competence. And it's very hard to say no repeatedly to, people who are working for you. And so eventually, he would probably feel like he had to say yes. And then they would be putting money into an investment that Pabrai doesn't really understand. It's not in his circle of competence. And chances are it wouldn't work out very well. So thou shalt not have an investing team. There's really no reason to have a big team working for a fund. It's a lot of upfront costs. It's a lot of overhead. You've got to pay these people. And it's just a real drag on performance. So, Pabrai, he's the only one who comes up with the investment decisions for his fund. Same with Buffett and Munger. They work very independently. And it's a structure that's not all that common to have a team of one, but it's worked wonders for Pabrai in terms of keeping costs low, in terms of keeping his being able to focus, being able to read a lot, and not having this team to manage for no real benefit to the fund. Commandment 3, thou shalt accept that thou shalt be wrong at least 1/3 of the time. Okay? Even the best investors in the world are going to make mistakes, okay? They're going to have investment theses that are not going to play out. So, it's important, I hate to use the phrase not to put your eggs all in one basket, but if you're going to be wrong at least 1/3 of the time, it makes sense that you have at least 3 investment ideas, maybe 6, probably less than, Pabrai aims to have 10 investment ideas. So he likes to put about 10% of the fund's asset in 10 different ideas. And just because you're wrong 1/3 of the time doesn't mean that company is going to zero, okay? It just means it plays out in a way that is unexpected. It might even do better than what you're anticipating. But it's important to just keep that in mind, that at least 1/3 of the time you're going to be wrong, and kind of allocate the assets of your fund accordingly, or your portfolio. Commandment 4, thou shalt look for hidden PE of 1 stocks. So what's a hidden PE of 1 stocks? Well, so a price to earnings of 1 means that, say you buy a share for $10, the company is going to earn $10 on that share. Okay, that partial ownership of the business is going to make that $10 back in 1 year. That's a price to earnings ratio of 1. Now, what Pabrai means by hidden price to earnings ratio of 1 is it's not a company that's going to show up on a screener, like a price to earnings screener, as a PE of 1 company. A number of ideas that Pabrai has found over the years is where the earnings a couple of years from now are going to be equal to the price today. So future earnings are equal to the price today. That was true with Fiat Chrysler, for example, which Pabrai bought in 2012. It was trading for like $5 or $6 per share, and it was estimated in, I think it was 5 or 6 years at that time, that they'd be earning $6 per share. So that was kind of a future PE of 1. Of course, they also spun off Ferrari, which ended up having a market cap even higher than Fiat Chrysler, I believe. So, things work out really well when you can find investment opportunities where it's a PE of 1, because you're really limiting your downside. And that's really the holy grail of investing. If you're not going to lose money on an investment because you've bought so cheaply, the only thing that can play out is you make money, okay? Because you can't really lose money. So that's, those hidden PE of 1s, that's really what we want to be looking for. Number 5, commandment 5, thou shalt never use Excel. So what Pabrai is pointing to here is that if you can't do the math in your head on an investment, if it's not so compelling that you can't do the math on one hand, it's a pass. It's not a good enough deal, right? If you have to finesse numbers in an Excel spreadsheet to kind of make the investment thesis work, it's not good enough. Take a pass. We don't need to swing at pitches, okay? I like what Investing with Tom said in a recent video about Pabrai, about how one of his biggest lessons from Pabrai was be quick to say no to investment opportunities, okay? Because we have limited time as investors. We can't be digging deeply into every company that we come across. And there are very few companies that we come across that are actually worth diving deeply into. So it's really important to be quick to say no to a company that just isn't compelling from the get-go. Okay, so thou shalt never use Excel. Excel, it's a crutch. It's it might make you feel warm and fuzzy to be using all kinds of equations and whatnot, thinking, we've got like the most accurate estimate of intrinsic value possible here. But there is really no intrinsic value. Intrinsic value is really just a range of what something might be worth, what the kind of a probable range of what something is worth. So be careful about seeking comfort in the perceived precision of Excel. If you can't do the math in your head, it's a pass. Number 6, thou shalt always have a rope to climb out of the deepest well. Pabrai here brought up back in 2008, during the Great Recession, the financial crisis. I think his fund lost like 2/3 of its value. Okay, period of maybe a year and a half, 2/3 of its value. In one of his funds, because he has this 6% hurdle rate before he collects any fees, it took 10 years to get back to that point in that fund where he could pay himself a fee for managing money for that fund. So, that was a deep well. He lost 2/3 of his net worth on paper in 2008, 2009. So, the way he coped with that is he violated rule number 5. He busted out Excel and came up with kind of fair value for the investments that he was holding, maybe looking out a couple of years. What are these companies likely going to be worth? And he was content with that. He thought, well, obviously they've taken a huge hit in the crisis, but there's a difference between businesses being the fundamentals of a business being destroyed and the perceived value, the psychology of the market taking the prices down. And that's really what happens in a crisis. You've got this kind of lemming behavior where investors, they're all just running away from stocks, right? They're fleeing without really thinking. They're all seeing everyone else running away and they're like, okay, we don't have time to think. Let's just get out of here. And so that's, that was the situation in 2008. And so Pabrai was able to use Excel to reassure himself that, these assets that are owned by the fund, they're going to recover because there's a lot of value in the underlying businesses. It's just not being recognized by the stock market right now. So have a rope to climb out of the deepest well. Life is full of ups and downs, guys. We're gonna get into wells. We're gonna fall into these pits that feel really deep. So it's important to have tools in order to climb out. All right. Number 7, thou shalt be singularly focused like Arjuna. Okay. Now, I was driving to San Francisco the other day, and I thought of an analogy for this focus in investing. I'm in my lane, right? And you've got another lane, the one next to me. It's seemingly going much faster. Okay. So, I see people behind me, I see people in front of me. They're like, all right, we got to get into this faster lane. Like this, clearly I'm going to get to my destination faster if I switch lanes. Okay. Now, of course, inevitably what happens is so many people go over to that lane that now my lane starts going faster. And it made me think of investing in a way where, you've got your process, you've got your investment approach, whatever that is. For me, it's what Pabrai's is. It's trying to find 50-cent dollars. Pay 50 cents for a company that's going to be worth $1 in 2 or 3 years. But it's especially if you're a young investor, if you haven't seen many market cycles, it's easy to see, people buying SPACs, right? Or people buying electric vehicle companies, IPOs, whatever it is. It's easy to look at the hot thing in the moment and say, oh man, like I should do that. Like that looks exciting. I could double my money in such a short amount of time, maybe a couple of weeks. you know, a lot of other people are doing it. I see people doing it. Everybody's posting YouTube videos about it. I should just try it, you know. What's the worst that can happen? And you switch lanes, right? You get away from what you're doing now, what you've studied, what you understand, and you go over to that other lane. You're like, all right, I think I'm going to get here faster. I'm going to get to my destination faster over here. And inevitably what happens is you fall on your face, right? You lose money. You think, why did I do that? And now you've lost some money, and now you're like, oh, I got to make that back somehow. You know, what's the next exciting thing that I can make that money back and then some? And you get into this game of chasing the hot thing, right? I think that's a big reason why people look at Warren Buffett and they think, he's lost his touch. He's so done, guys. Look at him doing the same thing he's always done, right? Well, turns out that's what works in the long term, is sticking to tried and true principles of investing. So stay focused. Decide what your investment process is. Learn from the best. Create an investment process for yourself based on sound, fundamental investing principles, and stick to it. Of course, you're going to learn. Of course, you're going to evolve. But don't chase the hot thing. That's really important. Number 8, thou shalt never short. Okay, I'm going to keep this one short. When you short a stock, the best you can do is a double. If the stock goes to 0, you've doubled your money. Okay. The worst you can do when you short is go bust, because there's no limit to how high a company's stock can go up. Even if it seems overpriced now, it can keep going up. There's no kind of physical laws of the universe that say, hey, this thing has to fall back down to earth by this time, okay? Things can go up. They can go up much longer than you can stay in the game if you're shorting. So don't short. It's a terrible upside to downside situation, okay? Best you can do is a double. The worst you can do is go bankrupt. That's terrible odds. So stay away from shorting. Rule 9, thou shalt not be leveraged. So in order to finish the game, guys, in order to get to the promised land, as Mohnish calls it, we need to stay in the game, okay? If you leverage, if you invest on margin and something doesn't work out, like, you know, there's a sharp drop in your holdings, you can get knocked out of the game, right? So it's leveraging. Leveraging really comes out of a place of impatience, okay? And impatience often comes out of a place of insecurity. You're impatient because you're trying to get the thing that's going to fill that hole in you, that deficit of value within yourself. So, you know, if you find yourself feeling impatient, if you think you need to juice your returns by borrowing money, I encourage you to just take a look at that. What's driving that? Because it's probably insecurity, and it's going to get you into trouble, because impatience is not the game. As a value investor, the game is patience. The game is staying in the game to benefit from those long-term benefits of compounding. So do not leverage. And finally, number 10, thou shalt be a shameless cloner. You guys, there are so many smart people out there. The beautiful thing about value investing is we can see what a lot of them are doing. We can see what they're buying and selling. With a little bit of lag time, we can see when they're buying and selling. And a little bit of lag time in the realm of value investing really isn't too much of a deficiency. So be a shameless cloner and I'm not saying simply copy investment ideas, but use these great investment ideas from great investors as a starting point to getting to know these businesses. It reminds me of the gas station story that Pabrai tells. So in Los Angeles, there's a gas station. There's two gas stations. They're kind of kitty corner across from each other at a busy intersection. And one of the owners of the gas stations, every hour or so he comes out and, someone's at the pump and he says, hey, stay in your car. I'm going to give you a full service free of charge. I'll pump your gas for you. I'll clean your windshield, full service. And the owner across the street at the other gas station, is looking at this. He's seeing what's going on and he's thinking, well, why is that guy doing that? Like, he can't do it for everyone. Why do it for some random, guests? Why do it for some random cars? And he thinks that's silly. And over the weeks, the owner notices that this other gas station is getting more cars going there. It's getting more business. Okay. He's thinking, well, it's still a silly idea. And he sits there, he does nothing. He's looking at this thing that's clearly working. It doesn't take much effort. And he refuses to adopt it, right? And this is so common with us humans. When we see great ideas and we don't make a change. So this last commandment is really about forcing yourself to, when you see great ideas, implement them, try them, integrate them into your approach, not just in investing, but in so many areas of life. This is possible. And it's really supercharged. I mean, Pabrai owes so much of his success to being a shameless cloner. I mean, he set up his fund based on the original Warren Buffett partnership. Okay? And he's just a brilliant cloner. He's great at identifying greatness and understanding what makes it great, and then integrating that into his own process. And that is, it's the fastest way to get ahead in life, is to integrate great ideas when you see them being implemented. So that's probably number one for Pabrai. That's it, guys. Just wanted to share the top 10 investing sins / hacks, investing hacks from Mohnish Pabrai. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Let me know if you did in the comments. And hope you can integrate these. I hope I can integrate these, because they're really timeless principles of long-term investing. All right, guys, that's all I got. I will see you in the next video. Take care.